international environment.
To China, and China's President Xi Jinping has opened the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in the city of Tianjin. The summit is being attended by more than 20 world leaders, including Russia's Vladimir Putin and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Xi delivered a keynote speech and presented a long-term economic and security strategy for the region, pledging to bolster cooperation with countries in attendance. Here's some of what President Xi had to say.
The current international situation is intertwined with turmoil, and member states are confronted with more arduous tasks related to security and development. Uphold fairness and justice, promote the correct view of World War II history, and oppose Cold War mentality, camp confrontation, and bullying behavior.
Let's cross straight over to our east. We just heard some of President Xi's speech there. What were some of the key takeaways from his address?
So yes, as you heard there, Xi Jinping very keen to play up the SCO as a force for good in the world, using words like peace, stability, justice and fairness, and saying that it would oppose what he described as power politics and external forces. What he was presenting really was his vision of a new global order, one that will be more inclusive and place a greater importance on the global south. He's also been keen to undermine the size of the SEO, that the member states account for 40% of the world's population, and he's encouraged members to leverage the size of this market. This has been called the axis of upheaval. It's about showing a new bloc, a new framework, and new leadership to counter Western dominance.
New block of upheaval. How important, Rick, is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, for China and the group of countries represented there then? What are they hoping to achieve?
Well, we have seen a copy of the declaration that's expected to come out of this summit, though it's not necessarily being signed by the members. In there, there's some talk about working closer together on security, a new centre to counter threats like cybersecurity, working together against terrorism and drug trafficking. Interestingly, there's also a mention on creating an SCO development bank to help member countries develop projects. But more than anything, this is about the optics. This is about Xi having the success in inviting world leaders, having that big family photo with them all in a row, and people seeing them coming to China. He's positioning himself as the great convener, able to gather all of these leaders and to lead the conversation at a time of international flux. Well, like I said, there is some talk about how the group could work together in terms of security, working together on shared threats like cybersecurity and that sort of thing. But there are no moves towards big defence agreements like that we see in NATO and that sort of thing. But interestingly, the group is starting to take positions on international affairs. There's talk in the declaration on the need for a ceasefire in Gaza and also condemning strikes on Iran by Israel. But it should be said that the SCO is a very broad umbrella of countries. You've got countries like Pakistan, and India that don't see eye to eye. And at the summit this week, we've had NATO country Turkey, but also Vladimir Putin from Russia, of course. But as I've said, the optics are quite clear that Xi is positioning himself as gathering all of these leaders together.
Now, this meeting.
I played you some different news to show you how this thing is being reported around the world, especially with DW News and CNN and some of the Indian outlets too. You can see how one downplays the actual significance of this meeting, and how some people are actually looking forward to the time when these it's not just about talk anymore, but about action. And that's what Xi is trying to do now. He said, okay, stop the talk now. We've been talking. Now we got to put this into action. And that's what they're doing. The SCO Bank was just like the BRICS Bank. You may not listen to this information. Sit down and listen to this information as it goes around day after day, day after day, day after day. But this is telling you what direction the world is going in and what is being done to push back against it. Now, this reporter that you're looking at, these two reporters on CNN, when I listen to them, I'm hearing MI6, the German what the Germans call their security, I forgot the name. I shouldn't have forgotten that name, but I should. And CIA, especially the one in the glasses. They are trained. They might be calling them reporters, journalists, but they are trained by the organization. They are members of the organization. They were hired. They're like the hitmen. And you have to watch their mannerism when they speak. Anyway, let's continue.
We'll take one example which everybody will relate to. We were discussing this yesterday. Let's take the Apple iPhone, which is most popular in the United States of America. Okay? Now, we have said, or the American administration has said, do not make the iPhone only in China. That was Trump 1.0. Okay? When it was tariffs were all China, China, China. Okay? Now he's saying, don't make the Apple iPhone potentially in India. That's what he's saying now. He's given Apple 1 year. You make the Apple iPhone in America, it costs 3x. 3 times. That's what it's going to cost. Apple then cannot compete. Forget with the Chinese and Indians. It can't compete with Samsung in Korea. Okay? So that's it. That's the end of Apple computers. No, I'm not joking. It ends. Nokia ended. It ends. If Apple cannot manufacture its phones at a competitive rate, India was the alternative destination to the Chinese. You say not in India, not anywhere else, not in Japan, not in Mexico, not in Canada. It has to be done in the US only. Then it's 3x. And this is what Tim Cook has already told Donald Trump. Okay?
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. This is a special Sunday edition of Vantage, and we are coming to you from the Media Center at the SCO Summit in Tianjin, China. It's been a heavy day of headlines in this bustling Chinese city. The streets are draped in banners, motorcades cutting through halting traffic, and cameras and reporters lining up everywhere, in every corner, because this year, Tianjin is hosting the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This year's gathering. The Indian Prime Minister touched down in Tianjin yesterday, and just moments after him, another leader landed, Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. You see, Pakistan too is a member of the SCO, so their PM is also attending. Now, Prime Minister Modi came face-to-face with Shehbaz Sharif today. They were in the same room for the family photo. And this is significant because it's their first encounter, the first between Prime Minister Modi and Sharif since the Pahalgam attack, also the first since Operation Sindoor. In April this year, Pakistan-backed terrorists attacked Kashmir. They killed 26 civilians in Pahalgam. India responded by launching Operation Sindoor. It demolished terror camps in Pakistan and struck military bases. Islamabad tried to hurt India but failed. Days later, a ceasefire was agreed upon, and now things are quieter at the border, but the relationship remains tense. And it's against this backdrop that Modi and Sharif were in the same room at the SCO. It also shows the fundamental challenge for this group. One of the core purposes of the SCO is to address terrorism. But how do you do that with a member like Pakistan? It's a state sponsor of terror, a safe haven for some of the biggest terror groups in the world. Pakistan exports terrorism into India and then it appears on platforms like this one to talk peace.
Palki Sharma, one of the talking heads of India.
In the month of June this year,
whatever the rest of the world does doesn't count. Just what India does. As you can see here, it's not they are there to talk improvement, but she's doing what? Who is Palki Sharma? When you look at the world events, those are the questions you have to ask. See, as I say, from how it's reported around the world, how the SCO. There are people who are paid to be there to introduce messages and questions and issues that shouldn't be introduced at that particular venue. When I look at the world, I see these things. When I talk to you about them, I talk to you in a manner that shows you how it has an effect on what's going on. Now, just like how India was pushing back against China's leadership, Russia's leadership in BRICS, and now have to fall back on these two people when America kicked it to the curb, threw it under the bus, as we say. But she is still there pushing the India program. The questions. Anyway, let's continue.
In Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act, you know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good.
NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung, also with us here on set, Axios senior economic reporter Courtney Brown. Brian, I'm going to start with you. For those of us who've been just overwhelmed and maybe on holiday or maybe just can't handle it anymore, can you please remind us what tariffs are in question here, which ones this ruling cover, and what could be impacted?
Yeah, Christina, this did happen very late on Friday as people were beginning their Labor Day weekend, so excusable if you didn't understand kind of exactly what this ruling means. But what we're talking about here are a big chunk of the tariffs, which are a real cornerstone of the president's economic policies, but not all of them. So basically, here are the ones that are impacted by this particular judgment here. These are the so-called IEEPA authority tariffs that the president has been waging against essentially every country around the world on a bilateral basis. You'll recall that big flashy Rose Garden announcement where he had that poster board where there were all those countries alongside the tariff rates that he wanted to slap on those countries. Those are the ones that this court said are illegal. It also includes those on Mexico, Canada, as well as China under the so-called fentanyl tariffs. But I do want to point out, this does not impact some of these industry-specific tariffs, like the steel and aluminum levies, which have been wagered on those industries using different authorities under the Commerce Department, as well as those tariffs on China that were imposed during the president's first term. One other thing that's worth noting here, de minimis. This is a word that not a lot of people are familiar with. This is basically a loophole that's been around since 2016. That's allowed items under $800 in value to come into this country tax-free. The president closed that loophole as of last Friday. Now levies will be applied to those types of items. That is not impacted by this particular ruling either, Christina.
And I've seen a lot of outcry on that one, particularly from, small businesses I follow on social media saying they're not going to ship to the U.S. anymore because they're just not sure they can afford it.
Court delivered President Trump a major blow to his tariffs agenda over the weekend. A panel of judges ruled the president overstepped his authority by imposing reciprocal tariffs on nearly every U.S. trading partner. Now, let's think back about this. As a reminder, these were just some of the countries to see higher tax rates put in place by the Trump administration. In fact, at one point, countries saw tariffs like 100%. In China, increase in reciprocal tariffs. Cambodia, Vietnam also faced high levies, both at nearly 50%. So President Trump wasted no time responding to the federal ruling, posting on social media, writing, if a radical left court is allowed to terminate these tariffs, almost all of this investment and much more will be immediately canceled. In many ways, he says, we would become a third world nation with no hope of greatness again. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson joins us now for more on this. Jessica, that is a pretty dismal view here. This appeals court found Trump's actions unbounded in scope, and they also added the words unbounded in amount and duration. What does that mean? They also questioned the lack of congressional support. What stood out to you?
Okay, I added these news reports to show you the different directions which the SCO going in and the US-led group is going in. US and NATO and EU are going in one direction and SCO is going in another direction. You can see from the two decisions that each one is making how the world is going to come out. Let's say 2 years from now. Because if you look at what the plans are 2 years from now, the US is seeing itself in a war. And wars don't usually come about unless, especially among what people are calling great powers, unless one feels that the other is overtaking him and he has no other option but to make war. And make no mistake whatsoever, what you see Trump doing is a war. When you charge another country 100% in tariffs, you're actually trying to kill its industry, kill its people. When you see China reciprocate, what do you think that's going to do? China reciprocated by killing Boeing, killing the farmers of America. Right now, China is still selling goods around the world. The amount of trade that China has been doing with the US has been reduced, while for the rest of the world, trade has increased. So you can see, you can comprehend from this that the situation the US is in is really dire right now. I mean, day after day, increasing number of people are saying, hey, I'm leaving the US. Everyone has different reasons. Could be the politics, could be a number of people saying, you know what, my child is going to school and I don't even know if he's going to come home because some kid is going to burn down the school or blow up the school or shoot the kids in the school. Taxes in my neighborhood is going up. I can't afford a house. I can't afford health care. all of these people are leaving and taking with them significant amount of income, knowledge. Even black men who have income that used to spend their income in the US are now deciding, you know what, I have to leave. Those who have the knowledge that they can work outside the country and those who have the money that they can live outside the country are leaving. And it's getting people upset. The world is changing. We have to adjust. I hope you are adjusting. I put all of this information on here to show you what's going on. And I never intend to make this video. I never did. But as I saw things are changing so quickly, so rapidly, I mean, I go to sleep last night and when I wake up this morning, something else is going down that, wow, look at this. See, America, especially, look at the part of here where they talk about Erdogan. I made a video earlier today talking about the same thing. The very same thing. I'll try to put up that video so you can see what I'm talking about. Normally I put up one video a day, but today it's like 3 videos. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm overloading you, but you can save them for another day. You know, you don't have to watch them all one day. Have a great day wherever you are.